But we don't turn them on and off.
And call the meeting to order. If everyone would please rise. Councilmember Pate's going to lead us in the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's go to the Lord. Father God, as we come to the throne of grace tonight, we just thank you, God, for being our King and our Savior. Father, we're going to work for the town tonight to see town get better. Things that happen all around us, we're just so excited. So we would just ask you to bless this meeting tonight as we go through. And God will see a good ending to it. In His name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, independent,
All right, are there any additions, deletions, or clarifications that need to be made to tonight's agenda? Not, do I have a motion to accept tonight's agenda? Do I have all in favor? So carried. Item 2, public comments for agenda items. This is for agenda items only. Anyone wishing to speak on agenda items, please step to the podium and state your full name and address. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody?
Sherry Reynolds, representing a charter school. If she has anything to comment on.
Ms. Reynolds? Thank you.
I'm not sure that this requires me speaking or not, but I was invited to attend the meeting either via Zoom or in person. And I think you may have our proposed traffic plan for next school year. Okay. I could just ask, are there any questions? Or I could just go ahead and do a quick overview. Okay. Okay. So if you will look at your handout, it starts with just some general information about this current school year. We currently have 348 students in grades K through 6, and we are increasing our school by 1 grade level each year until we get to grade 8. So next year for K through 7, we are looking at 509 students to be enrolled. So with our current enrollment of 348 students, we have 212 vehicles that come through every morning to drop children off and then to pick them up in the afternoons. Next year, with the 509 students, that's going to increase to 333 vehicles coming through each morning and each afternoon. So a few months ago, some of us from the school met with some of the town officials and talked with them about this increased number in enrollment, and realizing that we were going to need to make some changes in the way we do things as far as arrival and dismissal, it was suggested that perhaps we could do a staggered arrival and dismissal. So we went back and we did some work and did lots of studying. We did lots of discussion on the different options that we could present for the proposed traffic flow and pattern for next school year. So after all the different options that we considered, the very best option that we could come up with is a staggered arrival and a staggered dismissal each day. So what we have handed out to you shows that what we're doing right now works very efficiently. We are able to put 212 vehicles through our arrival process in 30 minutes each morning. So with an additional 121 vehicles coming through next year, then I'm going to talk to you about the proposed change to do the 2 times for the arrival and 2 for dismissal. If you'll look at the map on page 2 of the handout, this will help you understand how our traffic pattern flows currently, and we're proposing that we keep this flow exactly the same. So our primary route is parents coming in off of Mooney Road or off of Sunset Drive, or if they're coming in off of Main Street, they can take Church Street, and then they go to 2nd, then 2nd dead ends to Valley, and then they make a left on Valley, they come down Valley, they turn right into the school's parking lot. So that's our primary route that our parents are taking. The secondary route is if they're coming in on Mooney and or on Sunset, they can come around to 4th Street. And they can access 4th Street and then go to the end of 4th, make a left on Valley, and same thing into the school's parking lot. If indeed they come in on 4th Street and traffic gets backed up there, we have the option to use the vacant lots that are adjacent to 4th Street, and we do stack vehicles there sometimes to keep them off of Mooney Road. So our primary purpose in looking at a traffic pattern that will flow efficiently is to make sure that the safety of all citizens is considered here. So not just the safety of our students, but the safety of all the people in Stanley who are going to or coming from work during the school hours and so on and so on. So that's the reason for the different routes that we have in place. Then going on over and looking at the 212 number that we talked about, that's serving 348 students, 212 vehicles. Next year, on page 4, we're looking at, or not for next year, but this year, on page 4, the 212 vehicles, we start our arrival procedure at 7:25 a.m. So at 7:25, the cars start coming through the parking lot, and we have 7 staff members that are unloading cars, and within a 30-minute time period, we have all of our cars unloaded. Now looking at next year, adding the additional students and taking it up to 333 vehicles, then on page 6, you'll see it's an additional 121 vehicles coming through. So our staggered arrival, if you will look on page 7, when we decided how we would do our staggering times, the number one priority that we had in mind was being sure that we would not come up with a plan that would in any way negatively impact the traffic at Stanley Middle School. So that gave us the information we needed when we looked at their arrival and departure times. That gave us the information that we knew we had to start our day much earlier. So we are proposing to start our day at 7:05, and from 7:05 to 7:25, we will bring our 3rd through 7th graders in, and that will be a total of 148 vehicles. We will have 9 staff members that will be unloading. This year we only have 7. With additional students, we will hire additional staff, so that gives us additional staff to help with the unloading. Then our second group of students, kindergartners through 2nd grade students, will come in between 7:25 and 7:55, which is exactly the times that we're using this year. And that would be 185 vehicles during that time. So we're proposing to be able to get all these kids in a very timely, safe, and efficient way without interfering with the traffic flow throughout the town and or especially at the middle school. So then at dismissal, we will do the same thing. The group who came in at the earlier hour will dismiss earlier. They will dismiss at 2:25. The second group will dismiss at 2:45, which is our current dismissal time. And with the current dismissal time, we have no problems with interfering with the middle school's traffic. All right, so I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Okay, sure.
Approval from the regular council meeting of April the 12th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve last month's meetings?
I'll make that motion.
Have a second? All in favor? So carried. Item 4, special presentation, Gaston Vision 24 presentation.
Hello, Mayor, Council, Manager, Madam Clerk. Thank you for having me. My name is Gina Schell. I work with Gaston County. I have with me today Matt Blackwell, who also works with the county. We're here to talk about a process that the county is initiating along with Gaston together to create a vision for Gaston County. Advance, please. I'm going to talk about the small work team that we've pulled together. I'll just run through those names, explain why we're creating a vision, talk about expectations for the process and the product, talk about the creation also of a community data dashboard, the timeline that we have in mind, and ensuring that we involve Stanley residents. Next. The small team that we've had working to just lay a foundation to create a vision include Donna Lockett, who's the Executive Director of Gaston Together, Dale Murphy from Caramont Health, and then 4 of us from the county, David Williams from the Manager's Office, David Fogarty, who's with Cooperative Extension, Matt Blackwell, who's with me, who's with the Economic Development Commission, and I'm also with the Manager's Office. Next. So why are we discussing creating a vision? When we had the invocation tonight, it was mentioned there are things happening all around, and there really are things happening all across Gaston County, and Gaston County is poised for a great deal of growth. This gives us an opportunity to move past some past visioning efforts. There was a Gaston Vision 2012, and that was updated for Gaston 2020. So now that we're in 2020, it's time to think ahead again. Also, in 2019, the Board of Commissioners had Ted Abernathy create an assessment of the economic development situation in the county. And he, of course, said that the county is at an inflection point. Growth is coming our way from Charlotte. We can already see that. And when he talked with the stakeholders across the county, they said that they thought not only do we need to talk about economic development and where to head with economic development, but also everybody really wanted to have a broader conversation about where the county was headed in all areas of quality of life, whether that's education or health, safety, all of the things that make for a good quality of life in the county. And so the vision would allow us to create a handful of really important targets so that the county could come together, all of the organizations, the municipalities, the nonprofits, and work toward that same future vision. The process, we want to move as quickly as possible. Of course, the pandemic has created some challenges for us in that regard. And we also think it's very important that we go slowly enough to listen really authentically to all parts of the community. So we're trying to balance those two factors. The process will be led by a steering committee. That'll be a very diverse and strong steering committee with a strong subcommittee structure. We'll have representatives from business, government, nonprofit, faith, and community representatives, and we're working on bringing that steering committee together right now. We want to make sure that there's an implementation strategy baked in so that this is not a plan that sits on the shelf and gathers dust. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And we also want to, of course, make sure that we have continuous communication back with all of our boards, all of our elected officials, and our managers. The product, we want to have a statement of vision that's very bold and attention-grabbing, something that the community can rally around. And we also want this to be a blueprint that all of the organizations, where all the organizations can find their role and know what they need to do to move the county forward. It would represent the county as a whole, and we hope that any initiatives that might grow out of the vision would be scalable. And what we mean by that is we know that there would be some very important things, for example, that our larger organizations might need to do, whether it's the school system or Caramont Health or Contegra. But we also hope that smaller groups, community groups, and neighborhood groups might be able to find a place within the vision and be able to take on some projects where they could feel comfortable that they're working toward the vision as well. We are also discussing a companion effort, which is the creation of a community data dashboard, and I'm going to invite Matt up to talk about that for a minute.
Thank you, Gina. Mayor, Council, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. As Gina mentioned, the 2019 Economic Development Study completed by Ted Abernathy included a set of actionable recommendations that the county and our partners throughout our communities could take towards building a more robust and aligned economic development strategy. One of those recommendations was the creation of an online community data dashboard that would be accessible to both our public partners as well as our private partners throughout the community. It's anticipated that this dashboard may be used not only as a benchmark for our current and future progress, but also as a repository to house data for both the visioning effort as well as goal setting for our community partners throughout Gaston County. As we started the discussion about a community dashboard, Michelle and myself began to look at the logistics and had some preliminary conversations with the UNC Charlotte School of Urban Institute and began to better understand their experience with past data dashboards in the surrounding area, as well as looking at a probable scope of work and a cost for development and maintenance of such a data dashboard. Concurrently, we also analyzed dashboards from around the country, even down to when we selected a few that we liked the most, we reached out to those communities, had some very substantial conversations around their engagement on both the development of those dashboards and maintenance of the dashboards as well. As this visioning process began to take shape, it realized very quickly that the dashboard is very much a complementary component and partner to the visioning effort. As I mentioned, it could be used as this benchmarking tool, but also serve as an early warning tool when we're not progressing towards some of our goals and strategies that's been outlined in the visioning process, and allow us to collaborate with some community experts to address some of those issues that we may not be trending in the right direction. The real value to the dashboard is it's not only the data that we can collect at the census level that's readily available, but it's that community level data that we'll work with partners here at the town of Stanley, our planning departments throughout the county, in collecting the real neighborhood level data that will allow us to analyze our communities at a neighborhood level and really take action at the granular perspective. This dashboard will be a valuable tool not only for our public partners, but also our private partners throughout the county. I know in my tenure with Gaston County working with grants, we often have to use a lot of local data as we apply for grants, and I'm sure it's been no different with the town of Stanley. So this repository may provide some of that data that would be valuable in those grant applications for your community. I'll turn it back over to Michelle now to complete our presentation on the vision, but we'd be happy to remain to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Matt. So I mentioned earlier implementation and accountability. You can go on to the next one. What we mean by this is that as we're completing the vision, we also want to think about how this will be implemented in the years to come. And our thinking is that there would be an organization or an individual within an organization who would be assigned the responsibility of making sure that the vision continues to be implemented. And that would mean that we're continually communicating about it across the community, that we're having perhaps an annual event where we might report out, share some of the data that Matt mentioned, meet with any new leaders who might come on board as the years go by, a new executive director of a nonprofit, for example. We could go out and meet with them and be sure they know about the vision and the role of their organization within the vision. This is a visual representation of the process as we see it. So there would be lots of community engagement and dialogue. All of that would be fed to the steering committee. The steering committee will work over a number of months to create the community vision. Next. Along with the community vision, we would create the data dashboard that would inform how well the vision is being achieved. There would be a manageable number of targets or goals or milestones that make up the vision. And we would hope that once the vision is done, that other organizations, the municipalities, the county government, the nonprofits within the county would look at the vision and then look back at their own strategies and service plans and determine if anything might need to be tweaked in order to work along with the vision. Go to the next one. And this lays out the phases of the process in writing. So we are right now still in phase one. This has been just all of the sort of foundation laying and organizational work. We've been doing a lot of outreach, a lot of presentations like this one. We've been putting together our funding strategy. We are looking at a public-private approach, about 50-50 public-private, and on the public side, 50% will be handled by the county, And we are asking the municipalities for a contribution to the effort. And your number, I believe, Mr. Jenkins, 1,704 is the number that we are asking from Stanley. And we're also working right now on selecting a consultant. The consultant would be someone who has done a similar process with communities similar to Gaston County and can come in with a methodology and help us work through the process. Phase 2 would be the longest phase, lots of community engagement and dialogue, lots of meetings across the county, and also dialogue among the organizations. Phase 3 would be the actual creation of the vision and the implementation approach. And then finally, phase 4 would be the vision in action, just ongoing through the years. We want to be sure that we involve Stanley residents in creation of the vision. We will look for alignment with any goals that you already have laid out in any of your vision and plans. We will share any news of the effort with your manager and staff so that they can make sure that it is sent out through any means available to you, to residents. We'll schedule some engagement and dialogue opportunities and make sure we do some specific outreach in Stanley. We will involve you all in our committee structure as you would like, and we will, of course, stay in continuous communication with you all. So that is the presentation. That's what we're planning to do. We'd be happy to take any questions if you have them.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I apologize if I missed it. What kind of data will you be collecting? From Mr. Blackwell, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So we envisioned a data dashboard to house data from across the county. So it could be, our traditional economic development related data, unemployment rates, population growth, workforce numbers, but also, as Michelle alluded to, we look at the vision as a whole. It encaptures other things, our health data in our community. So we'd work with our partners at Contegra and Caremont Health as the data is available to take a look at our, the health of our population in Gaston County, and how can we continue to work towards developing programs that continues to improve our health. I mean, I think about projects I've worked with in Gaston County, greenway growth, expansion in our community to promote community health. So there's a lot of ways that we can tie community health back to initiatives that are already going on in the town of Stanley and our other municipal partners throughout the county. Beyond health, we look at education data that we would partner with our school system. Would be happy to share some examples of some of the data dashboards from across the country that we really like, that would give you a broad perspective of that data. But it is a large repository of data. Some of that census level data is already readily available. Other data we would be, like I mentioned earlier, working with our partners at Gaston County and all of our municipal partners. I think one good data point to look at when we talk about our growth of our communities and our economy that's easily and readily available is building permits. The number of permits that are issued, the value of those permits. So this would be another type of data source that we would include in our dashboard.
And would the council and the manager have access to that dashboard?
That dashboard, the intent for this dashboard is for it to be housed on a website that's both available to the public and to our private partners as well throughout the community. What we want to do is, and I have some lofty aspirations for this dashboard, but we want to make the dashboard very functional to our partners to upload your data to. So we want to make it so if the county or the city of Gastonia or any of our other partners are uploading building permit data, it's ease of use for your staff. Sure. That way, the easier it is to use, the more likely we are to keep that data updated.
Is that updated quarterly or monthly? Or?
We're still working on all those parameters, but I would imagine we would like to update it as often as the data is available. So there'll be some data that we would only get annually from the census level data. There'll be other data that, and again, I use building inspections or health-related data. Some of those we might could get, monthly. Educational data may be, again, annually. So it would depend on the type of data collected.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the council?
Is there a community that we could go look at online that kind of shooting for, we could compare ourselves to, or goals that you have?
Yeah, Spartanburg County has a great community dashboard. Was it called Spartanburg Strategic Partners? I'll be happy to email the manager a couple of those links. There's another one in it was either Wisconsin or Minnesota that we liked as well. So I'll send a link out to the manager for both of those that can be shared with you. And it just gives you some, Spartanburg Community Indicators and Momentum West out of Minneapolis were the two that we really liked. But again, I can forward those links to make it readily available to you for your review.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Thank you.
Item 5 is continued hearing for rezoning parcels number 224-745 and number R8 proposed construction single-family townhome units.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to get back in front of y'all again. Last month, you gave me a little bit of homework to do and go and try to make a more compelling argument. And we did a lot of research, a lot of work. One thing kept coming back. We've been working on this for over 9 months now. And I'll be honest with you, and maybe I'm hard-headed, but one thing kept coming back to me that I kept hearing over and over is we have a lot of what you're presenting coming or going on right now at Arbordale, and then we have another one coming with Heritage and probably some more I'm not aware of. And even though me being in the industry, I get in the weeds in it sometimes, I can point out differences to those communities. I can point out different architectural details. I can point out different lot sizes. And in my mind, I might be saying this is really different. But I got to take a step back sometimes and hear what folks are telling me. And I can appreciate on your side of the desk that yes, it may be a different color. It may have 4 doors instead of 2 doors, but it's still a car. And we got a lot of cars right now. So driving over here, I gave it a whole lot more thought. And one thing that I did hear loud and clear throughout this whole process is that we do have a need, and we all are for the most part on the same page, I believe, that there is a need for quality townhomes, would be addressing something that's not happening in the city today. So I'm here to propose something that I think would be a win-win for the city. Let's forget about all that papers I got showing different details. Let's eliminate the single family. Let's take out the single family option completely off the table. What I'm here to propose to you is move the townhomes over to Mariposa. My total unit count that I'm proposing was 135 units. It was 86 single family and 49 townhomes. I think my math is right. That's 135 units. What I would like to propose this evening is a small bump to an increase to 150, but we won't develop anything on Black Snake. We'll do the townhomes all on Mariposa, which could hold a whole lot more than 150. So we cap that at 150 units. We do the same architectural commitments that we made before. They won't be vinyl siding like Arbordale. They'll be fiber cement. They'll all have garages. They'll all have a stone or a brick element on the front elevation, just as we had talked about on the single family in the past. So you'll still get a super quality development, and you'll address that need probably for a long time in getting at those townhomes there. I would assume it's a little risk on our side. Is there a big enough market for that? But I believe that there is. And it would probably address that need for the city for several years. Getting back to the Black Snake side, there's a creek that separates them. And I don't have the exact acreage in front of me, but it's approximately 20 acres, if my memory's right, 15 to 20 acres on the Black Snake side. I would propose this evening donating that to the city of Stanley. That is on the same side of the road and is right up to Harper. So you could increase the size of Harper Park if you so chose. It's not my place to tell you what to do with the land. You might have other needs that you need. But when I close from the seller, that's when the conveyance would happen. That gets donated to the city of Stanley, all that land over on that side. And then we just have our one townhome development. And that put a light bulb above my head that I wasn't trying to pound a square peg in a round hole anymore. And even though I still believe that both the products would sell, and I do, what I feel and desire is not important. It's what the town of Stanley wants. And I think I'm hopeful, I'm appealing to you this evening that that would be something that you would consider.
So on the Mariposa side, you would be disturbing less land, correct?
I would. If I could ask what we would do, I don't know, without having no engineer doing my calculations, we can normally do 8 to 10 townhomes per acre. So if I've got 35-ish acres over there, I could do a lot more than 150.
Sure.
But we would certainly meet your ordinance on open space now. And I'm a big proponent of staying off that road at the entrance. I had to drive by the True Development Arbordale coming in again, where they got the houses right on the road.
Right.
And we would do some language in there that we would we'd have a beautiful entrance and stay off that, so the houses weren't right at the entrance.
Okay.
And I'd agree to a cap at 150 units.
Okay. Cap 150 units, serve less land off Mariposa, donate approximately 15 to 20 acres. That
Yes, sir.
bus up to Harper Park.
Yes, sir.
With the buildings, would you be willing to go 12 inches above grade?
Yes, we would. Yeah, that would, and that would also get the price of the units up, but yes, we would.
Okay.
Yeah, we would not, like they have at Arbordale, have them slabbed right on.
Well, that's the concern of it, how they sit kind of low.
I understand.
Okay.
I agree.
And they all have a garage.
They all have a garage, yes, ma'am.
And how many bedrooms will they need?
There'd be a minimum of 3 bedrooms.
Minimum.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, some of them might have a room for a 4th, but I would think of they'd all be 3.
A 2-story?
Yes, ma'am.
About how many square footage do you know?
Yeah, approximately 2,000, and they get a little bit bigger on some of them if they got a bonus room on them.
I think that's extremely fair and a very generous offer. What's the rest of the council feel?
What about the pump stations?
Pump stations, if there's any needed, I don't know now with this proposal it's needed, but in the past, our first round of discussions with water and sewer, where there was going to need to be an upgrade. We pay for the upgrade, any upgrades that are necessary, we pay for those, and then of course it gets given back to the city. But we pay for any of those upgrades. And but the fact we're not on the Black Snake side, I can't answer you whether or not there'll be some. But if it's needed, of course, we'll pay for it.
Since it would be all townhomes, I'm assuming that all of the lawn maintenance and all of those things would be part of like their homeowners association?
Excellent point. We do a lot of townhomes, and one of the greatest things that I'm proud of every development we've done. We've done a lot. We've procured over 4,000 lots in the greater Charlotte area here by the end of the year. One thing that is always, I'm proud of all of them, but I'm most proud of the townhome developments because the HOAs control. We write the HOA rules, and every one of them, the maintenance is taken care of by the HOA. And it keeps them uniform looking, and it really keeps it tight, and there's no rules are pretty tough. I like it also because there's a lot of folks, my mother-in-law included, that they get on in years, and it's a lot of work on a single-family house. So what happens when you're in a single-family house and you're in your community you've been there for 30, 40 years? But man, I don't want to have to deal with all that maintenance on the house anymore. The HOA takes care of the exterior of the building, the yard work, but also when something breaks and something on the outside. You're responsible for everything on the inside, and of course your HVAC. But it gives folks a chance to stay in the community that they stayed in before with another housing option.
So if we where are your other communities with townhouses? Is there any near?
Yeah, we're all over the place, but Lake Wiley, Region Park, I got some pictures, but they're just, I'll be glad to send, but if you go to the developments, DSG's website, we've done townhome developments all over, developmentsolutionsgroup.com. I can tell you, we have, our communities right now over in Gastonia are, just the three we have 4 more in the hopper. The three we have now are over $110 million commitments to West Gastonia and the Highland neighborhood. Brookline Homes is going to be building them. We don't actually build them. I develop it and I bring the builder in. And I'll commit not to having true. I'll gladly not to have true homes. Or D.R. Horton. But yes, ma'am, we picked the best one. We've got a vested interest. This is our first community in Stanley. We got family here. It'd be something we'd all be real proud of.
That's great. I know that's a single-family residence was a big point of pain just from all the growth that we're seeing off Highway 27. So I think this is something that the town needs. Again, I think it's a generous offer. I would be in favor for that proposal. How's the rest of the council feel? That's I'm hard-headed. I listen. I do listen. I really do. I'm 59, 50. Well,
I know we could probably sell more, but just looking at what we've got coming in, like I feel like we need to get that, let it settle, let that wave settle.
I respect that. And the key to any really cool community, whether it's, you pick your favorite one, whether it's here in town or Belmont or anywhere, it's having a diverse product mix. And even though we were going to paint it a different color or something, I finally hear you loud and clear. And another nice thing is it would be those would sell probably at a rate of 5 to 10 a month, and so you got enough product there to last for several years. We'll probably have a dip. We always do. These things have a way of self-correcting themselves. So that for anybody coming to town would probably address that need.
So when do you think you would have some ready to sell? Like what's your timeline?
Timeline would be takes product like it could take about 6 months. So we would close here in the summer, 6 months to draw plans, probably hopefully 3 months, maybe 6 months to get them approved, and then get a land disturbance. So it would realistically be soonest you'd see vertical constructions out there hammering would be probably the beginning of 22 or about this time in 22. And then it just depends on the economy, the pace of absorption, how quick they get sold. But people smarter than me say that we're blessed to be in this part of the country, and we've got the folks are still going to keep coming. They desire this lifestyle. Sure. So.
And I know you can't say definitively, but what would you say, especially the way construction costs are going, do you see as a rough estimate on a price point?
Yeah, construction costs are spiraling and not stopping. And they're going to reach a tipping point where the buyers just can't absorb it. We haven't seen that yet.
Right.
So these preliminary pricing on these units are at the high 2s at the base.
Wow.
Probably when you add fiber cement, and I hadn't calculated, but when you raise that foundation too, you're adding a little bit too, but it looks a lot better. But yeah, with the fiber cement, the brick and the stone elements on the front, just the cost of development today, it'll be interesting to look back, but I think that we'll all be pleasantly surprised that when they start going vertical, that those prices are going to have more than likely have a 3 in front of them, which is for townhomes pretty sporty.
Sure. So manager, what would we have to do as far as, can we go ahead and make a motion on that to approve that type of plan? Okay. Any other questions from the council? Have a motion to close this public hearing? Have a second? All in favor? And do I have a motion to approve the proposal that was just made from Mr. Olson regarding the townhomes on parcel 224746? Have a second? All in favor? So carried unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Olson.
And I very much appreciate, like I say, I'm 58 and I'm still learning, and I hope I never stop learning. But I learned a lot on this one, and I have to owe y'all great amount of gratitude because it is a give and take. And I can come in here with a fancy jacket and tell you I know all the answers, and I don't. But you guys know what's best for your community better than anybody, and I learned a whole lot through this process.
We
Thank you.
appreciate your flexibility. Thank you. Yeah, I know that. Here's acceptance of the bid proposal for the radio meter projects. Manager, how many bids did we get on this project?
Mayor, we did not receive but 2 bids, and one of those bids would not qualify
Was that?
because it did not include the proper bid bond as required. And there was some other information that was left out. It was not bid out as an apples to apples with the other bids as it should have been.
How many bids do we need to?
We need at least 3 under state law to proceed, so we need to rebid it.
Okay, and we're gonna have to have at least 3 bids, correct?
Yes, sir. And that's per state, statute, that's a required amount. Now, if we go back through the bidding process again, at that point, if you don't receive the proper number, then you can proceed. But
Even if we only receive 1 bid?
correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions for the council? Move on to item 7, new business. This is, we heard from Ms. Reynolds from the Community Public Charter School, the proposed traffic plan for the year 2021 to 2022. And Ms. Reynolds, would you mind stepping to the podium again? Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Reynolds regarding the proposed traffic plan? Before we do that, I did want to just touch base with Chief Withers and Chief Summey to get, Chief Withers, can I have your opinion of the proposed traffic plan, the 2021-2022 school year?
Yeah, Mayor. So after riding out there, taking a look at it as well as what I have seen with the PowerPoint presentation, I cannot recommend it for the 2021-2022.
Why is that, Chief?
And of course, I'm just looking at it from my standpoint, what I understand. Just doing a little bit of math, you're talking about almost a half mile of cars if there was some type of convergence and or issues up front. One of the concerns that I do have is the fact that instead of once inside the parking lot and the way the design that they currently have with cars stacking on top of each other, only 1 car at a time can actually leave, which slows down the process even more. And then, of course, having the cars on Valley Street, as well as potentially on 4th Street. My 2 kids also go to a charter school. I've seen how some of that occurs because at 8 o'clock, if you're not in school, then you're tardy. So what happens oftentimes is kids come out of cars, they disobey the line, and potentially that could be an issue for the town of Stanley with kids actually walking to school. Now, I did not see any of that, but adding to that could potentially cause issues. And then it's not just an issue with the cars or vehicles and those inside the vehicles, but also with a big red fire truck trying to get to the streets that the charter school is currently wanting to use. I do see an issue or a potential issue if we did have an emergency there.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Ms. Reynolds, can you address those concerns?
I would just like to say that we do have our school buses that come through those streets. And of course, they're not as large in size, I realize, as the emergency vehicles that they need to get through. And we have looked at several other options. And if this one is not feasible, then we're certainly willing to go back to the drawing board, and we're willing to come up with an option that would be safer.
Okay. Chief Summey, what's your opinion?
Or with Chief Withers with some of our concerns with the amount of traffic. And when I went back and looked at DOT's initial report when the charter school actually submitted their plans to DOT for approval, one of the things they stated was at a maximum of 350 students, the length of the queue length cannot be maintained. And she stated in her report that the students were going to go from 348 to 509. So that increases the amount of students tremendously there. So I do have some concerns as far as the amount of students in that. And I understand and I appreciate her putting this report together. When we met, she stated that the way that they came up with the number of car riders and bus riders was a survey that they sent out to all of the potential parents that had enrolled their kids for next year. And I understand that, but I do understand that circumstances change. Those students that may ride a bus next year, something will change. They may have to ride in a car. So at this time, I can't recommend it from my standpoint.
Okay.
I could add some further information as far as the number of students who will be bus riders versus car riders. We also pulled information from our Power School database, and that database gives us all the children, their siblings, their addresses. So that's how we were able to determine how many children would be in each group. And also with the way the staggered proposal is set up, we would have, with the 3rd through 7th grade students coming in, it would be a total of 148 cars. 72 of those cars would hold families who have siblings. Now, this is not in your handout. And 76 of those 148 would be single children in those particular vehicles.
I'm sorry, what was that number of single children?
The total number
No,
is, excuse me,
the single?
single, 76.
76, thank you.
And that would give us a total of 148 cars that we would be putting through in a 20-minute period, which is less than what we're putting through now in the 30-minute period, and then those will be cleared out. So we're not looking at a total of 506 for a total of 506 in the line at the same time. And the way this is set up, the 3rd through 7th graders, we have car tags. And Ms. Kirkland can verify this because she's in that car rider line, dropping off and picking up a grandchild. But we have car tags. And so our 3rd through 7th grade group would come in from 7:05 to 7:25. They would have the yellow tags. So with this group coming in, we're looking at 58 siblings in this mix, and 14 that would be, 14 for a total of 72 siblings, and this is in grades 3 through 7. And so you've got your 148. Then right on their heels is going to come in the next group that would have 14 siblings in this group. In the first group, these siblings are all in grades 3 through 7. Then we have a group of 14 who span all grade levels, kindergarten through 7. So that would be your next group that would come through. And then the last group that would come through would be a total of 185 cars. This would be kindergarten through 2nd grade. 162 of those cars have single children, and 23 of those cars have siblings. So I can't see that it would create any issues any greater than what we have currently. And currently, we seem to be very effective in the way we're running. And so the study from DOT that's been mentioned here tonight, that was pertaining to 350. And so we're not going to be dealing with even 350 in either one of these sections. So, again, the first suggestion, or the only suggestion that we had when we met with Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Sonny, and there was another officer, I think, present at that meeting,
Captain Wright, Scott Wright.
Right, and, their suggestion was to do a staggered proposal because they felt that would be, acceptable. And so we went back and we did the staggered plan. And we certainly feel that it would be acceptable. Mr. Pate, he takes his morning walks every day. He knows how things go. He's out in the community. He does that, 4 miles a day, I think, and we chat sometimes in the mornings. And so, and like I said, Ms. Kirkland, she knows the traffic flow. So, if there's any other questions or comments, I'd certainly like to.
Is the, school at full capacity right now?
Full capacity for this year would be 550. And
Okay.
we are at 506 right now.
Well, I have noticed that traffic is a lot better than it used to be. Now they're backing up to 4th Street. And I did see them go down Valley close to 3rd Street, but I see it a little better. But I'm wondering too, the big vacancy block you've got, what's the future for that? As far,
The property
yeah.
adjacent to the 4th,
yeah,
that property belongs to Community Pentecostal.
okay, so it's not
They
going,
would have to answer that question
Okay.
as far as future plans. Right now, with them being vacant lots, they do allow us to stack cars in those lots if we need them.
and the only reason I asked that was for future growth. Are you as far as you going with your school?
We have one more grade level that we can add under the charter the way it's
Okay.
written now. We can add up to 8th grade. And this upcoming year, we're adding 7th grade. And that's the reason for a lot of the increase in the enrollment.
So is the 7th grade gonna be in the unit that's facing Mooney Road, the empty unit?
Probably not. That unit has 2 classrooms, and so those will be dedicated probably to other grade levels.
Okay.
As far as staggering the times, I mean, I know you've got a 7:05 to a 7:25 and a 7:25 to 7:55, but I guess what I'm looking at is if everybody shows up at 7:20, you're no longer necessarily staggered.
Okay.
Is there a way to put a gap in those staggered times to let that clear out a little bit before the second wave of congestion comes in?
We could possibly do that. We could do probably a 5-minute gap, and that would still put us on, finishing up at 8 o'clock. But also to help with, everybody getting it at one time, the folks who come in with the yellow tags, they are after 7:25 arriving, they have to go on to the end of the Valley, make a left on Rappahannock, go park in the church's parking lot, go into the school office and sign the children in charge. So therefore, and if we have anybody in with a blue tag that comes in during the 7:05 to 7:25, they're not allowed to even go into the parking lot. They have to continue on. They have to come on down to the end of Valley and loop back around. They can wait for the church parking lot until it's time for them to drive around and get back in for the 7:25.
And I understand, but that's still, like, even if they're there early, it's still putting the traffic in the area.
I understand.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
sir, to answer your question, we could.
Okay,
Do a
yes, ma'am.
5-minute gap.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the council?
When the charter school first came to us a few years back, before you opened, there was an initial temporary traffic pattern that we had to approve. And then we were asked to approve that the second year. At what point will you have a permanent plan, or is it going to be something that comes up every year where we have to approve a traffic plan?
I hope you do not. As soon as we're in our permanent facility, we will have a permanent plan. And the reason to have to do the 2 different plans when we first opened, we were bringing, our children were going into part of the church facility as a holding place before they went directly to their classrooms. And so when we changed it, we were able to put them directly into their classrooms on arrival rather than using
Any other question from council? Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. I do want to take the advice that our fire chief and police chief take into consideration. Would the school be willing to work on kind of revising the plan to kind of work with our police and fire chief and our town manager to make sure that we all feel comfortable with it?
I'm sure it would. Yes,
Okay.
so we can just sit down with them at their convenience and get input from them. And
Okay.
look at everything that's available and do what seems the safest.
Thank you. I don't want to speak for the entire council, but I think we'd feel a bit more comfortable if everybody was on the same page and felt comfortable with it.
Okay, you're good.
Any other questions, council? All right. Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. Appreciate your time. Move on to item B. This is the appointment of Alicia Summey to the Board of Adjustments, as well as a recommendation for appointment to the Planning Board. Just want to say I know Ms. Summey. I know she's heavily involved with the Gaston County EDC. I think she'd be a added benefit to both boards. Any questions or comments from the council?
No, I agree. She's lived in Stanley her whole life, and I think that she has some really good ideas and input that she could provide for that.
No further questions, comments. Do I have a motion to appoint Alicia Summey to the Board of Adjustments, as well as a recommendation for appointment to the Planning Board?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We'll give that to Mayor Pro Tem Kirkland. All in favor? Any opposed? So carried unanimously. Move on to item C. This is the acceptance and review of applicants to fill the council vacancy sheet. All the council members have the letters of from the candidates in front of you. Since we're just receiving these, I want to give us a moment to review all the letters, and then we can discuss it. Somebody still need more time? Okay. We can discuss who wants to, you want to start us on?
Who is in the ward?
I had an award of James Barrow and everyone else within the award. You gotta stay on this read, she says she was assigned to Ward 4, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that 107 New Hampshire Road is the street behind where my home is in Bennington Woods, and I believe New Hampshire is back there, and that should be in Ward 5.
That is correct. New Hampshire is off of Vermont Drive, which is off of Ralph Ansel Boulevard.
I just want to clarify that. And it's only minor, so it's just a matter of if you can say that. You're also in Ward 5? Okay. And then, Carolyn, I believe, is a testimony, approval for the development of the market too. So that would go down to James Barry and I think both will be qualified. I was looking at, the main thing was the second page on James Barry's email that said, he was just an intention to fill out the remaining term of Ward 4. So I would look for somebody who's going to looking to fill out the remaining term, for Ward 4, but also to continue that. So that would narrow my recommendation down to Leon Helms. Your thoughts on the council?
Yeah, I'd like to see someone that, would potentially be willing to learn and stay in that seat instead of just, serve the remainder.
And at this time, this coming election, only this November, 2 wards are up for re-election, and that would be 5 and 3. So if any of the people of Ward 5 wanted to run in Ward 5, they wouldn't be able to if they were sitting in an at-large seat, right? Because they were committed to the remainder of the term for. I guess they have to resign in there. They would have to resign in the area, they would have to file for the ward they live in. Right. If they're appointed to that seat from outside their district, then they would not be eligible to file for the district. To run. Unless they resign from Ward 4, if they stay.
Well, it wouldn't come up at the same time. Well, I guess it depends on which ward it came from. Yeah.
My recommendation to the board would be Leanne Harold. How do you let the council feel about that? No, I was agreeing with that. I was ready to hear. Good, made the will, and I like it. I read it. I looked through it all. But I like the ability to do it. If he's qualified, I think he involved in the community. I think he'd be a good fit. And has actually been in some of the classes that I have, been in. So it has the opportunity, not just through the school system, but also from church to really get to know her on a personal level. And she definitely, when I say has the heart of a servant, is always out in the community, always wanting to help, always wanting to do, for other people. And I do think she will make a good asset to this current group. And the fact that she currently does live in Ward 4, I believe that it would be in her interest to run when that position came up again. Some possible.
I agree with her, and I agree no matter on interest with her.
I'm on board. If we ever have to do this again, though, can we do it like we just got these letters an hour ago? I would really like to have time to ask a candidate questions, or rather than just blindly voting off a letter, I guess. But I mean, if that's the way that the council wants to go, I will go in that direction. I have a motion to nominate Leanna Brown to serve as general company of the Toy Tigers, Ward 46.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. And then you can inform Councilmember-elect and then also everyone else that's going to get another action out there. We'll follow up with everyone. Just kind of clarification as far as the census goes, when would the council need that be effective? When would y'all have to officially? I guess I'd declare it as the new meeting, at the beginning of the new meeting. Get up a couple of. Okay. We'll plan on that then. Thank you.
So they can't be sworn in before the new meeting and get it on budget work session? And then you're gonna have to vote on them. So you're trying to get it.
Well, she's officially, if you have to be sworn in to make it official,
Could she attend budget meetings and not be sworn in?
yeah, we'll go ahead and include her in anything now. Especially that, and before she does anything, I declare at the beginning. We'll make sure that anything that, any correspondence concerning the budget or anything we do now, her name will automatically be added to that. I make public comment. Any citizens wishing to comment on any items expected to phone, they can inform them as well. Move on to item 9, department report. Director Haney, in his report, anything you wish to add, Director Haney? Any questions for Director Haney? Not, we'll move to public works. Mr. Roseberry?
Anything you wish to add beyond the report?
I do not. I'm at the pleasure of the board.
Questions for Director Roseberry? Not, we'll move on to recreation. Director Deason has submitted his report. Any questions for Director Deason?
The town concerts, did you help with that? Did you help get that organized, the 3 events?
It's gonna be really nice. Derek's also involved with, making sure everything's going right. But we've already secured stage, tents for the stage, food vendors,
And where the street's gonna be blocked off at?
We'll block it off from the clock down to, what is that, Plum there?
Plum.
Yeah, Plum.
Okay.
And then that little side street that goes beside Gas County side, that's where food trucks and all that goes, so we can kind of keep that separate. And then the band and the people will come out on the street.
Okay, and can we start advertising that?
Yeah.
Pushing that? Okay, good. I've seen it, I think at one place. We can push it out there to get all the people that
Yeah, so our official
Okay.
flyer done Friday. It's really nice, but we've got stuff being made now, and we'll start throwing that out today. Alicia helped design that and get some stuff done. Really nice flyer. We're getting a whole lot of comments back. We probably my Facebook page has got shared over 100 times, and over 300 comments to it. So we're gonna have a crowd. We'll be thousands and thousands of people there that night. And like I said, we've got multiple types of food vendors from, ice cream to, the real food,
Okay, thank you for your work on that.
It would be my goal if these three are successful, we do a full concert series next year. And then when will we need to book those for the talent?
Now,
Yeah.
I know
Now,
that sounds strange, but if you want to get the top of the line people, we really had a hard time. Eric reached out to these groups, he knew some of them, and kind of, begged or talked into making sure we could even get some this year because we got started late. But really, like the Band of Oz, which is a really big group to have, if we're going to continue to do that, it's something we need to go ahead and contact and put on the schedule for next year. They're booked, already on most of them. He can tell us we need to do it.
So if we want to do a full concert series next year, how many will that be? Roughly. Well, it varies. I mean, you can do come down to as many as 10, and others 8. So, okay. Depends on how many you want to do. 8, 10, I mean, okay.
How do we feel about blindly booking 3 for next year? To go ahead and get something on the books? Go ahead and book 3 again for next year? That way there's at least 3 events to look forward to with the people that book up quick. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, at least do the minimum what we did this year.
We'll be able, hopefully, doing it now, we'll be able to get a Friday, Saturday night where this year there was, nobody.
Okay.
I mean, it'll be me and ukulele on a Friday night.
That's all right. It'll sell.
Eric was gonna sing, by the way, so.
I've heard him sing before.
I just do the ukulele.
He was in the chorus at North Gaston. Don't let him fool you.
We'll go ahead and start working on booking some groups for next year.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tug. Police report's been provided. Any questions for Chief Summey? Chief Summey, anything you want to add?
I have a question.
Yes.
I noticed, a police officer in Lowell was a female. She had on like a vest, like on the outside of her uniform that had like, all of her equipment and stuff. And it looked really sharp. And I was just wondering if you've looked into anything like that or seen that or.
We've actually been utilizing an external carrier. A lot of our guys, it's really a preference. Some guys and gals prefer a vest underneath their uniform shirt, but we do have an outer carrier, but the carrier looks like our uniform shirt. So it's hard to tell when you first look at them. So we've been utilizing those for the last 3 or 4 years. It's just not a different color. Some agencies go with a different color, and it's more of a contrast. Like if their shirt is gray, they have a blue carrier or vest, and you can tell the difference. Ours is the same color as our uniform shirt, and it's the same style. It has the front pockets. It has buttons down the front, but they don't operate with it. It's just for look. We've been utilizing those carriers for a while.
Okay. So it's like an outer vest.
And they can take that outer shell and wash it every day.
All right. Manager Jenkins?
Have anything? Questions?
Any questions from Manager Jenkins? If not, we'll move on to council reports and comments. Yeah, it was in, I saw it.
I just totally missed that.
Yeah. Any other questions from the council? I would like to see, with the passing of Mr. Wyndham, I would like to see us have an attorney present moving forward as soon as possible if we could.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Already put some feelers out for some other local attorneys, and I'm glad you did mention that, because I do want to take a moment to mention Mr. Wyndham and remember him and the service he made to the town of Stanley. For I know he was here for at least 35 years, probably closer to 40. Always a voice of reason, always a person you could depend on to get good advice. And at some point, I would like to possibly invite his family back to a council meeting where we can honor him and remember him, and some type of resolution, and present that to his wife and family.
Absolutely, he's a great man. Anything else from the council? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
Second?
I'll say.
All in favor?